we definitely feel more like a band now in a very good way to me than I have in a number of years. Played in various bands over the years, and I'm really thankful to have these guys and also Brian Young playing with us live right now. A lot of the songs are maybe like come from, I don't want to say like sadder or darker thoughts I have and me writing about them. I hope other people maybe get something from it too, but it like speaking through negative emotions and through music and processing that has always been really powerful for me. And I think a lot of when I was like a kid with divorced parents and just like listening to all these records and headphones in like the attic or whatever, like I hope that maybe one day like our music can be that for somewhere else. My name is Allan. Supertramp. I'm not ready to go home. I'm not gonna do that.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Beers with the Band. I'm your host, Chris Schramm, and today I finally got to sit down with the guys from Allan and the Finites. And these guys happen to bring Lagunitas IPA as their beer of choice. So we're going to go ahead and crack these. And while we're doing that and getting them in a glass, guys, why don't y'all introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in the band.
Cool. My name is Allan Fine. I guess I started the band once upon a time, and it's still going. I'll let Hyde and Brian introduce themselves quickly. We've had
pending maybe being able to get this beer open.
Here,
While Hyde's opening it.
Sorry, buddy.
we'll do that. Here, I'll take.
All right, weird. Yeah, I used one of the soldiers before.
I am Brian. The other Brian couldn't make it, so unfortunately you're stuck with the Corona Brian.
The lesser of two Brians.
The less, by far.
Oh my.
But I play the drums.
And I'm what's left of Hyde. I play guitar and sometimes bass and mostly pedal board. But yeah.
All right, guys. So Lagunitas IPA is, according to the label, highly balanced, super drinkable, 6.2 ABV, and slightly aggressive pour, but the beer is very clear. Seafoam head, don't worry about it. Kind of off-white. All in all, it's a pretty decent looking beer. We can go ahead and get a nose, see what we think.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. This is probably the most official way to have tasted this beer. Usually I slam them after getting home from work.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
I think it's the first time I've actually tasted it.
Like, yeah.
this is probably my favorite mass available beer, and I think I was kind of joking with Hyde on the way over. Our second choice would have just been PBR Tall Boys.
Right.
I also thought about going to something Smith and Lentz and grabbing like a nice Pilsner, but I was like,
They do have some good Pilsners, like the Kolsch.
But this is like, to me, it's just like middle of the road IPA, and I like, this can sound cheesy on mic, but when with Finites play shows, if we're playing with pop acts, I like to say I want to be the heaviest act on a lineup if we're playing with pop bands, and if we're playing with rock bands, I want to be the poppiest band on the lineup if we're playing with heavy bands. And to me, that's what Lagunitas is like. This label said is very drinkable. I love this beer. It's just, I could drink Desert Island beer for me.
Right.
Well, in as much as we're this is a top shelf gas station beer. We are a top shelf gas station band.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
what do you think about it?
A very familiar taste to me, that's for sure. Yeah, just straight up IPA, but not too aggressive.
Kind of middle of the road, delivers everything you want in IPA, and not overly aggressive with either the hops, the malt,
Yeah.
You know,
No
everything.
surprises, no disappointments.
It's not like too citrusy or something.
I like it. No surprises, no disappointments.
That's right.
That's very, it's very interesting.
That's how I like
way.
my politicians.
All right. Well, now that we've gone through the introduction and we've started with the beer, why don't you tell the audience who you are and the kind of music that you guys write, the kind of music that you guys play? You know, what does the audience need to know about you guys?
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like that's
I can start
all coming from this
You
guy.
guys can interject,
Yeah.
but we definitely feel more like a band now in a very good way to me than I have in a number of years. I'm 28 currently. Grew up in Santa Cruz, California. Parents got divorced. Moved to southeast rural Massachusetts when I was in 4th grade, and just like headphones on, just absorbing the classic rock catalog from then on. I was very lucky. The library system at the time, this was iPod days, they let you check out CDs that any public library in Massachusetts had. So I would check out CDs from the library and just rip them, return the CD to the library, order it. And it started with like my dad's classic rock collection. Ended up like meeting a few friends in school and like got into like more like indie music in high school, but was always just a big fan and like sort of played guitar in the basement, and then like I'm an audio engineer. This is rambling. I have a lot of influence. I'm a nerd on like classic, barely like pop and rock music from like the 60s till now. And then I do a lot of production work, and then have played in various bands over the years, and I'm really thankful to have these guys and also Brian Young playing with us live right now. As like, this is the most like cohesive, I mean, as I said a minute ago, like we're a rock band, like kind of put down, I don't know, Lagunitas IPA of rock bands, but just a lot of the songs are maybe like come from, I don't want to say like sadder or darker thoughts I have, and me writing about them. I think I hope other people maybe get something from it too, but it like speaking through negative emotions and through music and processing that has always been really powerful for me. And I think a lot of when I was like a kid with divorced parents and just like listening to all these records and headphones in like the attic or whatever, like I hope that maybe one day like our music can be that for somewhere else. And I'm really happy to have like good, competent musicians with ideas backing me up. I think coming out of COVID, I was reaching out to different producers, and they're just people I knew I thought could maybe be good producers or stuff. Hit up Brian. Was doing some really cool like sound designy things, and we kind of met up and just like did a track or two, and I was like, oh, he's a good drummer. Like I would love to have him drum in the live project. And like it took like a little bit of like, I think we had a show, or I don't remember exactly how, but I was finally just like, just come out and like jam with the guys and see how it feels. And that definitely was great. So we've been working in the studio, and then Hyde is over time. Like, I don't think I'd still be doing this project without Hyde encouraging me to keep going on it. And definitely it started with like you learning the songs, but then now like helping me finish writing stuff where it's like I've got these lyrics in this form, but then you're like, oh, what if we put this chord here? And then like we're sometime in the next couple, we were supposed to cut it last week, and then none of us were able to make it to the studio for various reasons.
Right.
But we're about to record like a track that you wrote the guitar part, and then I was like able to write lyrics over the top of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty dancey. I like it.
Well, okay. You said you're a rock band, but I've been listening to y'all's stuff, and I ask everybody this, and I actually do it for a reason. What genre of music do you? I mean, you said you're a rock band, but for those who have not heard your music, I don't want them to put you in a box of just, these guys just play rock music. Y'all's music it's a little bit different than mainstream rock. So, you guys have a unique sound. Coming from Nashville, you guys have a unique sound. It is not what someone who's never been to Nashville, doesn't know anything about Nashville other than it's, country music, blah, blah, blah. They, and if they went to a show and heard you guys, they'd be like, that's a little bit different sound than, they would expect. So what genre would you put y'all's music in?
I think it naturally falls after like what we practice and what we play. So we're not those country guys on Broadway, so we aren't always playing those riffs and licks that you hear all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that firstly has like a huge influence. Like I'm always surprised of your like classic rock influences, like from your formative years. Like I'm definitely more into like heavier stuff. I know Hyde is as well. And so we like, for me, I always, when I'm playing with as the Finites, I always try to keep focused on like what's benefiting the song itself. And so that's going to make me play different versus like the stuff that I write for my own stuff. So cutting it into like a genre is like, I don't know, it's just like asking like what flavor of cake this is when the ingredients themselves are like not necessarily like Velveeta, chocolate, vanilla, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're like loosely under like the indie rock, indie pop umbrella. I know some of our recorded stuff that like I did, maybe you heard the project I did over COVID, that was a lot of like synths and drum machines. That was more of just me. And then I guess in terms of like dynamic of it as a band, a lot of times I'll come in with chords and words, and then like and I would try to be kind of intentional about like our live set versus recorded. Like I'll write dozens of slow ballads and I'm like, all right, we got one of these in the set. Like try for our live, definitely like as a band, like a lot of it stems from trying to put together a good live show. And that is sort of like, Hyde and I probably share a lot of indie music taste. You and I will get weird on like our electronic stuff. But it's sort of just like, I want everyone in the group to kind of like, I have this feeling or emotion or lyric or whatever, and then I want everyone to bring their own musicality and whatever they want to do on their instrument underneath. And then it's sort of like, is that working? Is there something that could be better there? And then that's where it becomes more of, which is a lot more fun to me than just making music in my bedroom by myself, which is like, I'm going to open this up to people who I'm now friends with and who I trust their taste musically, that you can kind of do your thing underneath. But I mean, I guess like probably listen to a lot of like Tame Impala, MGMT, stuff like that sonically, as well as like the classic rock stuff and like Arcade Fire and 2000s indie and the Smiths and Modest Mouse. I don't think we'd exist without Pavement.
Well, I was about to mention both Modest Mouse and Pavement.
Yeah.
For like,
do you remember what I said to you after the first time I saw you guys play live before I joined?
Did you say David Byrne?
No, you said you guys sound like the Modern Lovers. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of the reason why I was attracted to the project and what I when I show up and either help make riffs or play on stuff is kind of like a evolution or playing off of like what I consider like the last great era of like being able to have a guitar band, like the Pixies, like Pavement, Sonic Youth, that type stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why in like a lot of your songs are like, my intros are like natural harmonics, because it's like, we'll do some Sonic Youth or like some Slint stuff or something like that. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I love the shoegazy stuff you bring into it.
yeah, the 90s are always a big touchstone for the stuff I'm going for. You know, like Sebado, Dinosaur Jr., that kind of stuff. But
Dinosaur
And
Jr. is so sick.
I think we do have. They're on Bandcamp only right now, but like the two most recent songs at the moment, and Sun Also Rises, are maybe slightly more representative of what you might see at like a Finites live show right now. And
Those were the live ones, right? Like,
no, well, actually, there's two other ones that are live though. No, I don't know if anyone's noticed, or we have one that's like live at the farm. I don't know if anyone noticed that like I slapped like a fat vocoder on the chorus of one of those that was definitely not live at the farm. But the band takes were like even the vocals were cut.
It's funny, I do not remember.
Live. No one's heard it because it was not on the I put it out, it was like the single, and then I put it out as like kind of the B-side or whatever, and only there's like a different version that I don't very few people like.
Very sneaky.
The streaming numbers on that version of Another Year are like pretty low. Like I think it's like probably less than 20 or 30 people have heard that version of that song. That is just like all live band take, and then I'm like, it just needs like something else, and the vocoder is like aggressively loud in the mix. I mean, I also like, I'm not a huge fan of like Kanye's persona right now, but I think around high school, college, I definitely started listening to more like jazz and hip hop and other like Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Chance the Rapper, like No Name Gypsy, like just
No Name.
Those. It's just very different from like the white bread and like the high school, the town I went in is like the one red county in Massachusetts is where I went to high school, and there's about 1,000-person high school, and there were probably like, I was one of like 2 Jewish kids. There were like probably 2 black kids, 2 Asian kids, and everyone else was white, and that's like and then just like coming here for college, and then just like. But the funny thing is when I was a kid in California living there, it was like very diverse, like tons of like Spanish speaking Mexican people there, tons of like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, like
all over.
Like just very, very diverse. And then just go to like this monoculture high school. But then I think it was really like after in like college being in like the studio with like a hip hop producer rapper and just like seeing him like just put effects on the computer on things where I'm thinking about like tube amps and guitars and stuff. And it was just very freeing to be like, oh, you don't have to just do music didn't end in the 60s. Like there's so much more to explore, and we have computers now, and that like is a big thing. But even beyond that, just like we have subwoofers now, and that wasn't like a thing and it's just like it's all kind of like I don't think of us as being like an electronic band, but like I think everything post Jimi Hendrix is kind of like electronic music in a sense. I don't know.
I'd be okay with working on a fully electronic song though.
I mean, that's kind of the studio version of Black Dress. You didn't work on that, but you
I wish I did, but no.
But you did.
It's my favorite.
On the Beach, on the same little EP, it was like the first thing that you and I collaborated on.
Yeah.
What was the question again? What were we supposed to be talking about?
No, I kind of like. Sometimes when I ask the question about what genre would you put yourself in, I like to ask that of each individual in the band. And sometimes I'll run across an artist that will get a little agitated about it because they're like, I don't want to be put in a box, or I don't want to think about that because to me that's not important. My music, I translate my music the way that feels right to me.
Sure.
Now, what I as a consumer, and I actually had this conversation with an artist off mic, and we came, to a conclusion, and I really wish I would have recorded it because it was just great content. But, the artist said, I write, I play, I record the way that feels right to me. The people that come to my shows and I interact with on social media, it feels right to them. And I said, yeah, but to get played, you got to put a label on your music so that, stations that play rock, hip hop, jazz, alt country, whatever,
Yeah.
those.
Or just so streamers can find your stuff.
Right, right.
Playlist even.
Yeah, and he actually said, you know what, I'm not going to put a label on my music. If Spotify wants to label it, let Spotify label it. But, I don't want to put myself in a box, because if I do that, I feel like I'm going to have to kind of start changing the way I do things to fit the genre or the style of music. And he said, I feel like over time I would lose myself in my music, and that if the people, the shows changed, the bands I played with changed, the bands I opened for, whatever, things changed, because all of a sudden now I'm put in this box. And he said, I don't want to do that, because I've seen some great artists get signed, and it's like, okay, we gotta define your music, and then we got to tweak it to fit the genre.
Yeah, for their point of execution.
And right, and their first album is going to be the truest album out of everything they put out, because that's, to me as a consumer, it's kind of like the industry saying, okay, we've signed you, we're going to put your music out there, we're going to put our influence on it, but it's going to be mostly you, because that's why we signed you. But they see, okay, how's it doing? All these people out here are listening. Okay, you got this new band out there, Allan Fine and the Finites. All right, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And then by the time Allan Fine and the Finites comes out with their second album, it's changed. And by the time the third album comes out, it's like, boy, there's a big difference from their debut
I'd hope
album.
that'd be welcome.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on if it was from the band's direction. Like, you would hope in a scenario like that it was what the art... I know what you're saying, where sometimes if there's outside influence... Like, succinctly, I've heard someone say, like, genre is creating... Artists create music, marketing people to find genre. Like, I've heard...
I agree with that.
I've heard some people say... And, like, so I think certain's, like, it's... But then, like, as, like... an independent artist in 2024, it's like, oh, we don't have a marketing person, so like we get. But I think it's with the internet, a lot of that's maybe breaking down. I think
it's breaking those categories up.
The average person probably listens to a wider variety of music than they did in like 1996 or 2000 or whatever, where you're listening to the radio.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I listened to and the writer is podcast with Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park recently, and he was like, when I was a kid, like either you liked rap or you liked rock, and you you couldn't do both. And then that whole band is like, they're like, I mean, they heard like Rage Against the Machine, and that was like, they're like, whoa,
that was a gateway.
Rap, rock. They're like, you can rap and you can rock. But it's, I don't know, like I think in terms of like us live as a band, you're probably seeing 2 guitars, drums, and bass, and I think that's like, if I'm writing like
that would change the genre in itself.
Yeah, like that's why I said we're a rock band to start, is because it's like,
at least live, I would say that's definitely
yeah. But then it's like kind of in the studio, and I think the Who are maybe like, if I'm going to like my classic rock youth education, where they would do studio tricks and have synths and things like that, but then they would just show up with their guitars and play the songs. I think recently, not even that recently anymore,
they would do Teenage Wasteland on guitar.
I don't know if they played it.
That'd be insane.
I don't know what that
is.
I have their Live at Leeds record though, which is just like the best 3-piece rock band that you'll hear. Like, it's so good.
They're a 4-piece, weren't they? Daughtry.
Oh yeah. Well, he doesn't play an instrument. Yeah,
He fucks around with the tambourine a little bit.
But then like I saw, I think it was Foster the People, at Firefly Music Fest in 2015, and they had like a very kind of poppy, synth-driven recorded sound, and then they just showed up, and they're just like all guitars and like loud guitar, and it exceeded my expectations of what I thought that band was going to sound like as like a pop band. And maybe that was like, I don't know. It's like the idea that what we do in the studio can be totally different from what we do on stage, or maybe not like totally different, but like up to 60 or 70% different. And like, I'm okay with that as long as it's still good, or like still retains the feeling. And like for me, it's like, I mean, I'll even like run my lyrics and stuff by the other guys, but I'm like, does this serve the lyric of some silly poem I wrote whenever? Like some of them, they're like old, and like a lot of the songs we're playing have like roots in older songs that is like me bringing material to the other people in the band and being like which one of these would be fun to play live, and they keep picking ones that like I wrote when I was like 22 years old, and then like, or like even younger. Like Santa Cruz is like, I probably wrote that when I was like 20, 21, and like for some reason like they like playing it live, and like for me it's like if I'm gonna reach an audience like of anyone else, and like it has to start with like, it's like, what does my own band want to do?
I'm so sorry of how bored you are with that song.
Yeah, but it's just like it's like if
we all want to do it, and you're like, no,
if
not again.
I mean, I'm okay with like, because I want to do the ones that you guys want. Like if I'm in a good place, I'm just gonna keep writing stuff, hopefully, and like it's nice to like I love that we have like this collaborative group now. But it's like if the four of us all think it's good on stage, then I think it has a chance to like connect with other people. But if only 2 or 3 of us think it's good, then it's like it's not
Something's got to workshop.
No, it's like, and then that's usually we're pretty good at like, we've all played in enough other projects at this point or whatever, of being like, okay, we don't need like, how can we make this better? Like, do we need to add an extra measure? Do the drums need to change? Do I need to change the rhythm I'm playing on guitar? Whatever it is, like, or just occasionally it's just like, okay, let's table this one till next set. But like a lot of it, and like, it's been really nice working with you on rhythmic stuff, which is not the first thing I think about when I'm writing, but then like you'll argue with me about like whether it should be a crash or a tom, and I'm like, okay, like by the time we both think it's good, then it's probably good. If one of us thinks but then it's like, how many people do you like workshop? Like it's like if you committee test it by 100 people, it's probably really boring by the time it gets out the door. But having like working on songs with like 3 or 4 people, it's like, if we can forget about the outside world and be like, does everyone in this room think it's good? And I guess I do a lot of like production and engineering work for other artists. That's kind of my bread and butter.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like trying to take the mindset of like, let's like not worry so much about like the outcome of this until what's like everyone who's here thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
That's like and then like you were saying before, it's like genre isn't something that comes up in that discussion too often.
I think the closest we
not at all.
Yeah.
I think the closest we get is like, say with a song like Faded Blue or whatever, it's like, okay, yeah, this is like a disco-y type thing, or it's like, it's not a genre. It's I think we have songs that are like,
it's like the style of groove.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. It's like like our mass being thrown in a certain direction, and like we're throwing our ideas against the wall and see what sticks to an extent. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Well, from you guys' perspective, he writes the songs, and I'm assuming everybody writes as well, correct?
Yeah,
pretty much.
We all have our own thing.
At least independently. Yes.
Yeah. So he writes a song, he does production, he does audio engineering as well. Now, for you, do do you think it makes it easier to work with him because he kind of, like, you two guys can just sit in the kitchen and start working on some stuff.
Yeah.
And because he has that
100%.
ear and he has that talent, he can kind of say, well, you know what, why don't we try this? And then by the time, you guys finish coffee, y'all have been like, you know what, let's go ahead. We're good with where this sits right now. Let's go ahead and move further and get everybody else in. Does it make it easier having him there instead of y'all getting together and saying, okay, we agree with this. Now let's take it over here to this person and have them, tear it apart.
Throw the wrench in the
Yeah. Because he's already there. He can add to it. Do you guys feel like individually that makes it easier on?
Yeah, the dreaded like band working with like producer X, like whoever that person is like not a factor at all. Because like we already are doing that.
Bri is also a great producer, as is Brian Young, and sorry, I had to cut you off your answer. But, But it's like this is
since we also do that, it's like the main thing I have to watch is like not necessarily just watch it. It's just like it's good for me to be open to like different solutions, since I like more like aggressive music and stuff like that. It's just not like aggressive stuff that we're necessarily doing. I don't know, maybe we could do like a slam song or whatever. But
sure,
it's like I would have different solutions for or different ways for a solution than he would, and that's like the biggest thing I look forward to when I work with him in this group.
It's like a healthy
is to discover these different avenues that I wouldn't have think of.
Yeah. So, Hyde, how are you with that? Does that help? I mean, do you see it as a plus? I guess in writing the music, creating.
Yeah.
In creating, is it a plus for you?
Well, I mean, unlike them, I'm not necessarily an engineer. I know how to, everyone knows how to like cut demos on their own like little DAW they have on their computer. I can obviously do that. But when I was working with other people, I would always, especially on a material that I was making, like I was the kind of person who would like show up for like the next session with like a notebook with timestamps with like even like a frequency range I wanted to zero in on. Like, I'm not trained as an audio engineer. I've just like done it, been around music enough to.
Been in different bands.
Yeah.
Been a part of it.
Yeah, and I did AV in college, which taught me a little bit of the audio portion. I was mostly focused on video, but I don't know. It's been extremely helpful because like like it's just like talking to someone who knows what they're doing. The only thing that I would say ever gets in the way is like if you just want to like show up and jam or something. Sometimes getting the mics set up is kind of hard, but like
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at jamming for the sake of jamming.
No, that's about it. But no, it's incredibly helpful, and it feels like if we have an idea, we can like I can suggest like, oh, have you tried like trying this effect on it, and you're like no, or like then sometimes you'll show me something you've done with like again like maybe not the best example, but the vocoder on Another Year early, you know what I mean? Like, it sounded cool,
Yeah.
So
and, the funny thing, I guess it's so funny because I've been twisting knobs. So, like, I would argue that I'm not even like that good at playing music compared to like being behind the boards on it. I
think there was one time where I asked you like, what instrument do you play? And you're like, laptop.
Nice.
But it's like I almost take, and I would love to get to the point where it's like we can work with other people and bring in other people, but it's also like for me bringing in other people right now, like this season of it is like this bit where it's like out of the producers that I called coming out of COVID, just being like, I've got some songs we'd love some outside help with, like Brian and I gelled the best. Like the other ones didn't really come through, and whether that was scheduling or just not really interested, but then it's just like, oh, we like hanging out in the studio together, like, and the things, to me at least, like the things that we made together felt way cooler than the things I was making. Like like the ideas I brought you versus how they came out. I was like, I wouldn't have thought to push it that way. And that was like beyond what I thought this song could be. And for me, like, it's very cool that in a band self-contained, like you have a studio, Brian Young has a studio, like I've got a studio, Hyde has a demo station,
An attic.
but more important than that is like a lot of good ideas too, where like you'll bring in
of creation.
you'll bring in guitar, and like it was, but more so than even the recording. Like I was joking with, we're working on this song Faded Blue. We played it at our last gig. It's, I mean, maybe by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be out, or like soon after, but it has like a 6 measure chorus, which most things in pop music are in like blocks of 4.
Yeah.
And then I was talking with Hyde about cutting
with that
it,
the most,
and just being like, I'm like,
all of them.
I'm
feel
like
as the drummer, I was just like, it
and
has
then
to
I'm like,
resolve.
I'm like, we just have to, we just have to convince. I'm like, I think this song is done if we can convince Bri that the 6 measure chorus is a good idea. But the like, and then I don't know, but then also like, if we go to the studio, and I guess it'll probably be next week, like, and we'll jam on, we'll try, and then it's like, I want it before we like cut it down. Like, it's like, okay, well, let's try the other variations for like 15, 20 minutes and see if we can find something better. Or if for me, like that song feels like that chorus is thematically unsettled. And like, I'm okay with that being
Part of the
like the music feels unsettled because the lyrics are unsettled. And it's like,
Now you get it.
I don't want to say it feels wrong, but it feels like, oh wait, what just happened? What's next? Is like the feeling of having like an odd measure count like that. And to me, that's like, if I'm writing a song about like time passing and our emotion shifting over time, like the leaning in and being like, oh, what's gonna happen next is maybe good for, I don't know, like maybe it sucks and no one's gonna like it, but it's like at a certain point in time, it's like, I think we, as creatives, have to like do our best to like tamp down. Like maybe it sucks. It's like, okay, but like let's just not think about that, and let's like do our best to make it as good as we can. And as I've been recording music for like, I'm 28 now. I probably started when I was like 15 or 16, and it's really only in the last few years that I've like. Took 10 years to figure out how to make stuff that I would actually want to listen back to. Like, and some of that's musically, some of that's like engineering, like just the net whole of working in the medium of recorded music or live music. But like for me, it's like recorded music is like figuring out like how do chord structures work? How do frequencies work? How does dynamic compression work? Does that lyric fit over that chord structure? Like I still struggle with melody. Like I tend to do melody last. Like I'll have words and chords, and the chords will have an emotion to them, which because each chord is made up of notes and they're changing in between them.
A different thing about you in particular, most like people that write songs are like melody and chord.
Yeah.
Then they put the words to the meaning behind the melody.
And sometimes I'll have that, like I'll have to find the rhyme. Like if I have a groove and a syllable, like I'll be humming it, and sometimes I'll have half of the words. And then I'll be like, I need something that rhymes or something that finishes this measure so that it fits in this container of pop music or pop adjacent music. And it's like a puzzle, but then you don't know what the picture is supposed to look like at the end. You're like,
I love that now.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about we crack this second beer?
Sure.
I've really been wanting to check this out.
I love the art on this.
Yeah.
I think it is
Pretty
kind of
Godzilla
unique.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
I'd watch it.
beast of both worlds.
The Beast of Both Worlds from Lagunitas Brewing Company. It is a bi-coastal IPA. According to the label, it is East Coast flavor with West Coast clarity. 8.0 ABV.
God dang.
Oh, so it's got some punch to it.
Yeah. Glad I'm not driving.
If you thought the answers were incoherent before, just wait.
Just you wait.
Oh, it's fixing to get fun. It's fixing to get fun.
Is this podcast sponsored by Lagunitas in any way?
No, but maybe I should.
Seemingly.
Maybe I should
This
talk to the
episode.
guys.
I know. For
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I like-
Shout out.
Oh, sorry. Was I not supposed to wait to sip?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, it. You know what?
I like it. That was my.
Yeah, it's hazy. I like it. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and take a shot and see what we think. All right.
Cheers, folks.
Cheers.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
That is really
That's great.
tasty. Yeah.
For 8%.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah. Kill a lesser individual.
It's actually less bitter than their original IPA,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
This has more of a citrus thing kind of going on.
Yeah, it's fruity.
Yeah.
Well, it should, it should have a little bit more of a citrus note due to the ABV, but I think the East Coast flavor with the West Coast clarity, I think the reason I picked this beer up is because it is a bi-coastal IPA. I've personally never had one. I've
I didn't
had
think that was a thing.
What makes
until
an
today.
East Coast IPA versus a West Coast
Well,
IPA?
to me, okay, this is my perception, and a lot of people think this, but there are a lot of people that would give a little pushback. But I think an East Coast IPA is going to be a little more citra, a little more fruity, and a West Coast IPA is going to be a little more dank, a little more piney, a little more of a green flavor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be a little more bitter.
You said dank, and I was like, yeah, that pinpoints it pretty well.
And
The hazy IPA, yeah.
And you can get an American hazy IPA that from one brewery that's going to be a little more dank, be a little more West Coast, but they don't say that.
Yeah.
And then you'll get one from a brewery down the street that is a little more East Coast. But when you look it up, it's just American hazy IPA is all it is. But the individual brewer puts their influence on it. And that's the reason that I want to incorporate beer into the podcast, is because I approach beer the same way. Well, okay. I say a brewer is like a musician. Okay. You have an IPA. Okay. This IPA, for it to be an IPA, it has to have certain qualities. For your music to be considered rock music, it has to have certain qualities. But an individual brewer will put their own spin on an IPA because that's what they like and that's what they want to communicate to the consumer. This is my version of a hazy IPA. Do you like it or do you not? And then they say, you know what, I like it, so I'm going to stay with it. Same way musicians and artists do music is, okay, we're a rock band, so we have these bass qualities to make it rock music, but we're going to put our own twist on it, our own influence, our own creativeness into the music, just like a brewer would put their own creativeness into a beer. And that's why, to me, a good beer is like a good band. It's going to have certain things that are every IPA or every pale ale or every, whatever style of beer. I mean, porter, just anything. It's going to have base qualities.
Yeah.
But every porter, every IPA, every Pilsner from each individual brewery is going to be different.
Just by default,
and it's kind of like the consumers of beer are like the consumers of music. You can walk into a bar that has a live band playing. Each person that sits down, if there's 40 taps in there, is going to get something different. And then this band comes off stage and another band comes up there and say it's bluegrass night. but each bluegrass band is going to have different influences, and you're going to be able to hear that in their music. And that to me is why I like beer and I like music, because everything's different. No two things are the same. And that's why I like sitting down talking about beer, talking about music, is I want to know what makes you guys tick. And I want to know what creation or what creativeness is behind the music. You know, and I think as a consumer of both beer and music, you know, I want to know why you chose to go this direction with the music, and what does that music say to you, and what do you want that music to say to me as a consumer? I mean, when you guys get on stage, do you feel like once you really get rolling, kind of get 2-3 songs in, maybe it's a stage, a venue you've never played before, maybe you're playing with a band you've never played with before, so maybe, you know, you kind of got their audience and they got a little bit different style of music, and then you guys come out and, you know, you do your thing. Are you kind of able to feel what the audience wants, and to kind of feel like, because I know you said earlier that when you're on stage, like sometimes you'll put a little bit different twist on the song, and like you said, you went and saw a show and it was completely unexpected the way they came out and played the music, but it was their music. Yeah. It was just done in a slightly different style than what you expected. Do you as musicians and as artists and creatives, when you go out on stage, you know, do you kind of tweak the song a little bit, just kind of say, let's do something fun, let's do something a little different, and we'll watch the audience and kind of gauge if they're getting into it, or if they're kind of like, I've heard this song and this is not it. So I'm going to be doing this till the next song comes up.
I mean, I'd love to. I mean, you guys might feel different. I would love to get to the point where we have the ability and control to to say, hey, we're gonna do this different. Because I mean, it kind of feels like usually we'll have rehearsals, and it's kind of like, this is like, I think maybe knowing the lineup ahead of time, like I try to predict who's going to be there, what the season is, like try to do our best guess of writing a set list that's going to be good for the venue. But
well, then there's also like the, you know, we played that gig at the 5 Spot a minute ago. We did the cover of I Want to Be Your Dog or whatever, and I think you asked people come towards the stage or whatever. And no one
doing Santa Cruz. That was my least favorite Finites.
Oh, that was terrible. And then no one actually got towards the stage. And if you remember, I yelled out the audience, "You fucking cowards!" And then just played like a really distorted note of feedback. Like,
are we allowed to swear on the show?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we played that same song, mind you, at a higher tempo at our most recent show at the East Room, and like there was a tiny but still very present mosh pit being formed. Like people were loving it.
People were into, and it was hard. I think.
All the other bands were super pop too.
Exactly.
But awesome. I've only like straight up moshing.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. I've only played a handful of shows where I feel like people didn't get it, and that like kind of messed with my head afterward, like, and it's like I stopped doing that after that 5 Spot show. We didn't play for maybe a year after that.
Yeah.
Until we had this new lineup. But then it's also like, I don't think I wish I had the ability to be like this style. And like, I don't know, maybe there are little things of like how much energy you put in that lyric. Do I kick on this distortion pedal or not? Like, but it's most of it. As of right now, I mean, like, well, there are a few sections of the show where it's like we, like, end of a song, it's like we're gonna go for however long we feel like it. There's a couple little sections like it, but most of it is like pretty, I don't like loosely but tightly pre-planned of like, this is gonna be the song, these are the instruments, and like there's not that much control. But I mean, there is in terms of like for me, it's like the in-between song banter. I'm always trying to get better at that, like winning over the audience that way. Or like even just like eye contact with the room. Like for a long time, I didn't like using effect pedals on stage because it was like I would be looking at my feet instead of playing the guitar or performing. And then now we're like, oh, we're trying to do synth songs on guitar. Like it would be helpful to have an effect pedal or two. But like I think playing a lot of shows without that first is just like, I don't know, just trying to connect. And then just, I think part of it is having to be okay with if half of the room loves this, another half of the room leaves, then at least half of the room loved what we were doing.
Well, like,
That's a win.
Yeah.
like you're up on stage and you said you like to keep eye contact with a crowd, which for me, there's a certain band, a mainstream band, pretty popular. I'm not going to name the band, but
Red Eye Blind.
but I like their work. I like their music. But I went to see them live, and one of the musicians on stage spent 90% of the show with his back to the audience. And by the time I left the event, I hate to say it, but at the time I was like, you know what? I'm done. You got up there, and it's like it almost seemed like it was a job for you to play this show. And if this is a job, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to spend my money watching you. Okay, I'm going to go up here and play this song. But looking back, maybe that particular musician couldn't look at the audience because maybe it was more anxiety.
Yeah, stage fright.
Yeah, and you know, I look back and I say, you know what?
Sometimes it's very real.
Yeah.
And well,
like really big artists.
And I've actually noticed other artists that would wear just dark sunglasses, just super dark, and you could tell that while they're playing, every once in a while they just kind of look at the audience, but they're kind of looking right at the front of the stage and maybe at the instrument every now and then, but at least for me, you're at least facing me and giving me a show, as to where that other individual was like, well, no, I'm playing for the band. I'm not playing for you. And that's the way I felt. But looking back on it, you know, it's like, Chris, you can't get up there and play that instrument in front of this many people that well in that environment successfully like he did.
Like that consistently too.
Yeah.
Why don't you give that man a break and say, you know what, maybe there was an underlying issue that I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the way it had to go down that day. So guess what? Had I not seen that, would I have been happy with everything that happened? Music was great. I mean, everything flowed.
It could have even been just like the stage volume, where like that dude had to be there to hear whatever he needed to hear because stage monitors weren't working, or his like IEMs or whatever.
Yeah.
In the pee break, we were talking about. Sorry, I just broke the fourth wall. We're talking, but like the crack, the Leonard Cohen lyric, there's a crack in everything, and that's where the light gets in. And last Thursday, the whole band was supposed to go to the studio. I bought this old tape machine at Christmas, just got it repaired, and then we had come out, just played a show, had a couple songs. It's like, all right, guys, let's go in. We've got the gear, we've got the songs, we've got the band. Everyone's free Thursday. I woke up, sent a group chat. I'm like, feels like Christmas morning, guys. Like, just so excited to go in. And then I don't know if you can see on camera, I have this bandage on my arm. My leg is also bandaged, very stiff, but
and he's limping,
biking around East Nashville.
Yeah, he's faking it.
But I've seen a limp.
And it was like, it basically was like being kind of spaced out, listening to music, headphones. Like my tire was a little underplayed, and I'm like, oh, let's just go down this hill fast. and just ate it on my bike and like totally went into shock. Like had to have a neighbor drive me back, had to go to like a walk-in clinic, and it was like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and I'm like, all right, like, and the whole time I'm just like, am I gonna be able to make it to the studio tonight? like I'm like was worried maybe I had a concussion or something just because disoriented, and like went to the clinic, like showing minimal signs, like obviously take it easy, and like a week later I'm still like could have been a lot worse, but then
Wear a helmet, kids.
yeah, but then
And closed toe.
and I don't know if you
Closed-toed
want to talk
shoes.
too much, but like I was like, well, like I'm still down, and then you called me and you're like feeling kind of sick, but like maybe on the fence. I'm gonna try to nap, and then like I was like, okay, well let me know. Like if you're down, like I'll power through. I might not be able to play guitar, but I can figure out piano chords in my right hand, and I can engineer the session and get like drums and bass down at least. And then like you're like, or you.
I think eventually I hit you
Yeah,
up saying
you-
that I had gone blind again.
That's interesting.
TLDR, just a little weird like autoimmune condition. Occasionally I go blind.
Has it happened?
I'm clearly not as blind as I was last Thursday, but yeah, no, it's a.
Do you think it's kind of a migraine
Oh, no,
situation?
it's like diagnosed. It's like an autoimmune thing. So
Really?
like on meds for it and that sort of thing. But every once in a while it'll flare up and I'll go.
How many times
completely
has that happened? Like total?
4.
Like
So-
2020, and then have all of them been more recently, or just it happened?
The one that happened in 2020 was technically 2, and this was
Okay,
technically
so-
2 as well. So
yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah. So it was a big Thursday for the band.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
And then Brian was tested positive on a rapid test for COVID the same day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it was up until that point where I was like, maybe we can still do the session.
That was
We
Thursday
can
was the worst
possibly
day of
get
my
this.
symptoms too.
Yeah.
Like it climaxed that day, and Friday I felt a little bit better.
But it was,
Then
I don't know.
basically like 99%.
Hopefully we'll
better.
make it in
Yeah.
next week. Like it's kind of nice. It's kind
Let's see what happens next Thursday.
I'm kind of scared.
kind of nice.
What's
Being
gonna
in
happen
here,
now?
it's like it's kind of, we had this schedule, and I'm like, oh, we could talk, like, and it's like where it's like, all right, we haven't cut the new material yet, but I mean, at a certain point, like I just gotta believe that it's gonna happen, and like if we can get the 4 of us to show up on the studio on the same day, that like I have full faith like we're gonna come away with something good just from like the collective experience of the group. And like I was saying earlier, it's just like, as opposed to, I'm trying to do, I mean, partially just getting a little older, like it's harder and harder for me to hole up in like the room by myself and just be like, I'm gonna do a project. Like it's more of like I'm friends with the people in this band now, and it's like I just really wanna, the last 2 shows we played are the best shows I've played in my frontman, or really even like playing guitar for other people, like the limited experience I've had doing that. Like no disrespect to those groups, but like this, like it's felt like I'm like, this is a thing, this is the music I've been trying to make since I was a teenager, and like there's just something about like being in a room and like it's like, I don't know, just having like guitars play, like it's a little bit tried and true like instrumentation, but like I think we have like a somewhat everything, like you're saying about beers, like it's not an IPA is an IPA, but like I think we have like something a little unique, and like this is on a technical level. For me, I feel like I'm at the top of my ability I've ever been in terms of like constructing the overarching picture of melody matching words, matching music, matching vibe, matching texture, matching tone of guitar, matching whatever, like having just like spent the time in it and knowing this makes me feel a certain way when the guitar plays those notes with this tone, and like just trying to put all of that into a cohesive thing. And then it's like playing with Brian and Hyde, it's like I think we have something that in my life is like, I'm like, we got to record this. Like it's, and I hope people like it. And I think also there's the whole industry side of figuring out how to like get it in front of people, like starting an email list or like putting stuff up on Bandcamp or whatever. But it's like versus Spotify versus whatever versus like we're not on TikTok or anything, and it's like. But I think it has to start with making the actual thing.
Well, do you feel that, you said now you feel like you need to be with them when you're creating music?
I want to be, yeah.
Yeah, and you feel like maybe you've moved up to the next level of creativeness. Do you guys kind of feel the same, that you want to work together as a band and create together as a band, as opposed to, oh, well, he sent this over and wants me to work on it, so I'll go ahead and tinker around with it, and then we'll get together next week and come up with something. I mean, that there are people that work that way, and there are people that have to work that way based on scheduling. But at the same time, do you feel like it brings you guys closer together as a band to sit down and have the creative aspect together, as opposed to separately and then trying to put it in a blender and have something come out that is something everybody agrees on?
I feel like I have the easiest job when it comes to that, because if Allan sends me something with or without drums, like I'll have a very clear idea of what I'm gonna do, and usually works out. If it doesn't, it's like we talk about it, we talk it through it, then like boom, done. Like I'm not really trying to like push the boundaries or anything like that, as far as like my technical skills on it, because like usually like whatever I can do on the spot with like generally is like within the skill set, just as long as I'm like a little bit warmed up and I know what's going to happen on the song, as long as I'm like serving the song, it'll turn out pretty good.
It always feels like a hybrid to me, where it's just like, because of scheduling, like we all work other jobs, we all do whatever, and it's like, I don't know, like I'll take it, like the ideal that I'm shooting for is like, let's get us all in the room together. But like the last few things we've done have been a lot of like us meeting up as subgroups and tracking and things like that too.
Do you feel like as a guitarist that you can explore maybe a little more creativeness when when he includes you in the writing?
Yeah, to give you a framework, this is like, I play in a few projects and do stuff solo or whatever, but like this is the one project and I'm just like, I show up to a jam session or whatever, anything can happen. It might wind up sounding like Jefferson Airplane, it might wind up almost sounding like Black Flag or like the Stooges, like anything can happen.
Yeah. Well, I think we all have pretty wide taste, and it's like, I just kind of like, for me, it's like whatever we feel like doing is like in it. But it's like,
well, you're talking earlier about like time and stuff like that, and like that's kind of how I view this band, is like, whatever is going on in our heads at this current time is what we're trying to transcribe and throw on a tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like we're all kind of in a reflective, like finally getting over being teenagers kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like late 20s, early 30s type beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of like going back around and reassessing stuff and figuring like why we're even into certain things and ideas. For me, that's manifested in like going back and trying to do like a hardcore project, my own terms and stuff like that. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean,
like it's all just kind of like, I feel like honing in on some ideas that we all like had and maybe put on the back burner. But as they're resurfacing, is like, oh yeah, this is actually why I really like making music. Like
that's cool.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's interesting. Like in a funny way, like all I ever wanted was like, and it's funny that I've even like thought about being like, maybe it's Allan. Like everyone said, keep the name Allan Fine in the Finites, but like there've been times where I'm like, I don't know if I want my name to even be top billed or whatever, but then it is on other days I'm like, I'm glad I have creative control over all the lyrics here, guys. It's my name, but like most of the time though, I'm like the more, and there've been different iterations of different lineups that have used the name Allan Fine and the Finites, and we once played a show as Allan Fine and the Brush Teeth, but before.
It was before my time.
Sorry, that was
before my time.
That was in college. Like, I met two other people who liked Pavement, and we're like, we should start a band. Like, I was always trying. I was in college. Like, I wasn't good at playing guitar, but I was always like trying to start. I went to Vanderbilt University, like in Nashville, but not a lot of like pop. They have a classical program, but not like, felt like all the cool music stuff was happening at Belmont, where. But it was like I was always trying to start bands and could never get anyone to take it seriously. But met a couple people who were like, I'm into Pavement, you're into Pavement, like let's start a band. And that was like all I've ever wanted was just like I just want to be in a band. And I played guitar for other people like here and there, and then like was playing guitar in a college project, and they're like, well, you can do a song. Like everyone in the band got to do like one of their songs or whatever. But it was mainly my friend Mary Nevins, who I think lives in Chicago and still makes music under the name Sun Queen, or maybe her own name. But it like playing guitar for her, and that was like just being in a band tightened up my musicianship so much compared to like the 4 or 5 years of playing guitar in the bedroom by myself before that, where it's like I have to interact with the shared rhythm and the shared key and the shared. Everyone has to be in this kind of like collective, I don't want to say hive mind, but like be on the same wavelength of this is where the downbeat is, this is the tone, the chord we're in, or the chord. That's a very Western music theory, but it's like collectively as a group, it sounds the best if we're all listening to each other playing and responding to that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like I have so much joy, and also like I'm so tired afterwards. Like, but where we do like the rehearsal room where we're like working out parts on stuff is like for me like coming from producing records like one track at a time of my own material and other people's material. Like it's like all at once where it's like we'll play it and I'm trying to sing and play rhythm guitar, but then also listen and be like, oh, could that lead part be better? Is that the right? And like mostly like the reason I'm so excited to make this next record probably going to be a long EP, short record, or they might all just come out as singles. Like
Greatest Hits Volume 3.
Greatest Hit. We're talking in the car. We're like, we're going to make 2 EPs. We're going to have Greatest Hits Volume 1 and Greatest Hits Volume 3. But however it comes out, it's like just being in the rehearsal space with these guys and like the collective, like Hyde will bring in a guitar part and I'm like, oh, I like what you're doing there, but can you cut out on this measure? Or like, can you play something heavier or more driving on this measure? And like,
never an issue to play something heavier, Allan. You know that.
But I mean, I would love if we could play the end of Supertramp a little heavier.
Okay. I got you. I got you.
But it's just fun. Like it's so reward. Like it's. I don't like I played some sports in high school, like tennis team, cross country team, but they're all like individual sports, but still like it's like part of the team, and you're like oh, everyone is trying to like win for the team. Like in the tennis team, like we need 3 out of 5 matches to win. Like it's like we win or lose as a team, and just like I think maybe that's part of the reason where I'm like, oh, it's so much more appealing for me to be in a band than just to be a solo artist. But I mean, there are days where like Hyde has a guitar riff and I'm like, great, can we record that so I can walk around the park and think about lyrics?
He literally did say this.
As opposed to like I don't have anything for this right now, but I like that. This. Yeah. Like awesome. Can we like record this so I can just loop it and then like go for a walk or go for a bike ride and like
stroll,
and yeah. And I did for one of the like that I was at the coffee shop and I had it on loop and I was just like, okay, with a very scattered notebook, and it was just like, okay, there's that part and that part and that part, and like just trying to. And I also like writing on a computer versus or iPhone Note or whatever. Like I'm very like copy paste. Since I've been writing songs, I've had a word processor in front of me largely, and now I'm trying to use more pen and paper just because I think it's more romantic or whatever. But it's more of just like, but like being able to have a phrase and a different phrase and a different phrase and a different phrase and different strings of lyric, and maybe that one's the chorus, and then reorder them, and then I'm like, I can cobble these two lines together as the verse. It's very like collagey.
Well, this just came to mind when you said that you're trying to move towards pen and paper. Do you think that, at least for me, you know, I had you guys and everyone who comes in, I have them sign the wall.
I love it.
You know, and
Yeah.
and I do that because when I'm here working, you know, on whatever I'm working on, trying to communicate with other bands, whatever the case may be, this is kind of my creative space in here. And I can kind of look up at the wall and it's like, you know what? I really haven't looked at the way these people wrote their names or whatever the case may be. And it kind of brings me back to seeing these documentaries about these huge worldwide musicians, and there's like, oh, you know, he was sitting in a diner and he wrote this on a napkin, and we have the napkin and it's on display. And you know, you go look at that and you're kind of like, or you know, these musicians that they'll write on like just big pieces of paper, and you'll see where they've written so much and then they just cross it out. And then they write this, or then they take that paragraph and they'll scratch out this word and put this other word. And for me, I'm not a creative like you guys, but to look at that and say, you can almost see this thing becoming the worldwide phenomenon that it became, and you can see it from its infancy.
It is pretty cool.
You don't see the final product, you know, but you talking about, and, you know, y'all have talked about, well, I'll bring in a notebook and I'll kind of say, well, this is what I'm going to be doing based off this is kind of my music sheet, you know, this is kind of the way I'm going to be going. And then maybe in the middle of that, y'all come up with something like, oh, you know what? Well, why don't we try this? So the music sheet that you had, you can say, you know what? I'm not going to scribble it out, but I'm going to put a line through it.
Yeah.
And we'll recreate here. But I want to keep this just in case maybe I want to revisit this if we change something else.
Yeah.
You know, and then 20 years from now, you can open up that notebook or whatever and say, man, I remember when we made this song. This is where I was at, but this is what it turned into. And you can see how it just built up and how it was created and became, I mean, to me, I think that'd be extremely cool.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a lot of digital, at least for lyric stuff. I have most of my, if I finished it on an iPhone note or a Google Doc or something, which is, I've written maybe 3/4 of my song. Like I use just the iPhone notes for like, I have a folder full of several hundred lyric ideas on my phone. I don't even have an iPhone anymore, but it's like, if you look at any finished song, there are 3 or 4 times as many lyrics underneath that are the ones that didn't make the song.
Right.
Because I just rearrange. Usually it's rhyme, syllable count, things like that. But also just trying to be like, this is the best story verse to verse. I guess I took like 1 or 2 songwriting classes in college that like kind of were on story and form and things like that. But it's like, by the time I tend to just write down anything I think might be a good idea, and then I have to sort out what order it goes in. I don't know if there's anything like that for your, because you guys both have your have your own projects outside of the Finites too. I don't know if you have anything that's the but I I gave it to someone, but the book How Music Works, David Byrne, with Talking Heads, he keeps what is it, once in a lifetime, like see the water flowing underground or whatever. He has a scan of that in the book with like exactly like you're saying with the crossed out lyrics, and it's like water flowing under, like he like you see his like the margins of what he was about to write and then how it came out. And I know
really
exactly
cool.
what you're talking about, and I'm like that was very cool to me, just to see that the steps it went through to be the final thing, which most people only see the final thing.
Well, it's
But
like
then everything that didn't make it. Sorry, yeah.
no, it's like seeing drafts of like The Wasteland or something like that. You know,
What's
by
The
Eliot.
Wasteland?
It's a T.S. Eliot work. You know, it's just like something that is massive and consequential to, you know, like Western literature as a whole. You can go through his drafts and notes and stuff like that and see where he's picking it apart or trying stuff out that was kind of shitty. You know what I mean? Like for some works that are indispensable parts of canon and literature that form the backbone of you know, our like thoughts and semantics to this day, like they were made by somebody that exactly.
I like how on some deluxe like you get some bands, so like I don't know, the Beatles, they'll have like the alternate takes or things that
Yeah.
but even those feel pretty curated. And I mean, honestly, like as a consumer, I don't always take the time to listen through and be like, I don't feel like I need to listen to 5 versions that aren't quite as good as the actual version of the song. But sometimes if I'm in the right mood, like it's really interesting to see what didn't quite make the cut, like what it almost could have been.
Yeah, like what paths weren't taken.
Do you guys remember? Did you ever guys ever see that Get Back documentary?
Oh yeah, I love that, like 8-9 hour Peter Jackson thing.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
Remember that section where you can like kind of tell that it's like Paul trying to figure out the bass part for like Get Back or whatever?
Oh, he just kind of invents these like humming something.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Like,
My parents, I actually watch out my folks, and neither of them be musicians, and you know, actively discourage me getting into it. But they fucking loved every second of it. They're like, "Look at him, he's making a song," and I was like, "That's what I was doing in my bedroom all those years." You know, like I was just like, "Come on." But like, it was kind of cool to have this crossover where I think they almost finally got it. It was like, yeah, you know, like I don't want to be in the Beatles. I never even want to be that successful. But like. Everyone's ultimately, if you're participating in that art form, is striving towards the same thing, just getting a sound out, getting something that's locked in your head just thrown out there, and you can eventually throw it on tape, you know.
Yeah,
I love that process, and
watching it is indispensable, you know, is really something else. That's why I love the documentary. But
yeah,
anyways.
That definitely showcases like what that journey is like. For me, that's like the drug. Like if I'm a junkie at all, like that's what that is. That's what kind of heroin is, like the songwriting in itself and chasing that dragon.
Right.
Like wherever that's going to lead me.
Because it's like when you figure it out, you get the hit, or it's like when...
No, the joy's over after I figure it out.
Yeah.
Like for me, like that
brief elation
is like this enthralling meditative state,
yeah.
In a sense, and it's like very, it's a really good workout. Like it's a great mental workout, but it also like makes me feel happy about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, what for you guys individually is the top of the mountain? Is when I'm not going to say, and normally I say, okay, this is when you say to yourself, when you've accomplished whatever it is, like let's just say, and I'm just using this as an example, you sell out Bridgestone as the band, you know, and before you go out and play, you say, you know what, I've reached the top of the mountain for me. Where some artists say, you know what, the top of the mountain for me is producing a record and getting all the emotions. Everything that I needed to put out there is now out there for the consumer. It's in the wild. The top of the mountain is that.
Sure.
But, you know, each artist, each band, each creative has a different, you know, point of view of, okay, this is the end all be all for me. Everything past this is just, icing on the cake. But for you guys individually, if y'all don't mind, could you tell me, what the...
Start.
I feel like I just stated my top of the mountain is just that journey of like getting the pieces to the puzzle like together and being like,
so
yes,
zen.
this works. Like this is.
You're like the top of the
This is a
mountain
thing.
is hiking up the mountain.
Well,
It is. I guess so. Yeah.
the top,
I mean, no, I can appreciate that, because there are so many people, these mainstream artists out there, and then people in mainstream who are selling out, making interesting music, and they're selling out these massive arenas and have these huge tours, making all kinds of money. But it's like, you can kind of watch when they're working and say, you know what, it doesn't look like they're fulfilled.
yeah.
And what's the top of the mountain for you?
I think for me, the mountains are always going to move, if that makes sense. Once you do one thing, you're like, okay, I got to what's next,
Okay.
not like I don't ever find myself satisfied or happy kind of way, but I view this entire thing as kind of like a, to use the word endeavor semantically implies that it's like a, like it's like hard labor. It's something that you're at the grindstone about, or you don't enjoy it. But like in essence, it's something that I view myself. The mountain is something that is always probably going to be far off in the distance, and I'm striving towards. If that makes sense.
So you reach one goal.
Yes, and it turns out that was just a peak on the way to it.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? I view
Yeah,
myself as
so-
constantly towards
that.
a certain artistic trajectory. I'm not sure what it is, but each pedal I buy, each song I make, like each documentary about an artist I watch that I like or something like that, I think that contributes towards bringing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So you're saying that you don't have a goal in mind,
Right.
but if you reach a goal,
Yeah.
all it does is open a new door.
I get
And
that.
It,
Yeah.
it opens a door to a hallway that has a door at the other end. So
Exactly.
you have to reach the next door, and that door opens to yet another hallway, and there's always a door in front of you that you have to open.
Yeah.
That there's no finite
Nice.
door.
Exactly.
There's no last door to open.
Look, I tried taking the finite door. It's going okay so far.
That's fine. I've had, I think back in, if you asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, I want to play Exit In. Not even necessarily sold out, just like play Exit In, have it not be empty. And then Exit In closed, but now it's reopened. So maybe that there's still, I don't know if I saw of Montreal there a few weeks ago, and it seemed like their AC was broken. So I don't know if that's still my goal anymore. It'd have to be in a nice, like, temperate fall or spring.
Yeah, now that it has to be not in
But
the middle of the summer.
I think, like, I agree wholeheartedly with actually everything Brian and Hyde just said. Like, I feel similarly about that. I don't think there's, like, a specific end goal in sight. I think setting out, I always wanted to just create a record, whether that's digital or vinyl or CD or something like that, where years later, like whether I'm dead or still alive, someone could pick that up and listen to it and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's been like the main, like, when I think about, even when I'm producing for other artists, like, it's kind of the same, where it's like, I just want to make something that stands the test of time for at least a while. Like, I mean, I don't have to be the next Mozart or whatever, like, that would be great, but like, if it's in like 30 years or 100 years, if someone is flipping through the, like, when I first got a vinyl record player as like a teenager and be like, this is so cool, records are in, like, look at how big the art is compared to the CD. But like, I would go to the thrift store and they'd have like the dollar record bin, and I I think what I bought like this Doobie Brothers album for $1, and I listened to it, and I'm like, this is great. Like, this was $1. This is great. If I could be whatever in 40, 50 years, the dollar record bin, and someone flipping through and find it and be like, put it on, whether it's like some dark web Bandcamp XYZ, whatever that is, in 30 to 50 years, like if someone could go through, hit play on it, and
either way,
like,
you want it to be secondhand.
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal, because that means that there's like an artifact, or it doesn't have to, like, I mean, it would be cool to be like, but that even feels beyond my ambitions to be like, I want to be the next Beatles, or I want to be the next Rolling Stones. It's more of just like, I want to make something that people think is cool or interesting or worth listening to years into the future. But
I want to do something critically, artistically sound.
Yeah, but I mean, and then like, I would like to play like a few like mid-sized shows. Like, like maybe now like the absolute dream would be like playing like SNL or something, is like the far-fetched dream, where it would be like, we fucking made it, guys, where it's like not even like an arena, it's more of just like loose, I don't know, I did have a bet with my college roommate of like who would be the first Vanderbilt School of Engineering student to win a Grammy. But I always assumed I would win the Grammy for like best engineered record for something I mixed, not necessarily like my own work. But maybe, I don't know. That's like, but I care. That's more about like making my parents happy than it is like even what I want to do. It's more of like, see, Dad, like the.
Well,
This is a viable business.
Yeah.
do you guys feel like you're on the road to reaching the top of the mountain, or the next door in your hallway, or do you feel like as a group you're heading that direction, and that you have the creative mindset as a collective instead of an individual, that you're on the way?
We'll see. I think we got a shot at it. That's like, I feel this is the most, I don't want to speak for them, but for me, as someone who's been behind the boards for other records on and off the last 10 years or so, and like, it's like, it's the most excited I've been about my original material or stuff I've had in hand in writing ever.
I think it's awesome participating in it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I love working with Allan, and like, even with my own stuff, and just seeing what he thinks of it, and then vice versa, because we like trade notes all the time.
Bri has a cool record or EP that like slowly. I work so slow that I feel hypocritical being like, dude, why aren't these songs done yet? Like, I've been working on this a lot, but like, it's
these are old songs, but
it's how it goes sometimes.
But it's very inspiring how excited I'm to see this guy of his stuff, and so that keeps me going, and so that's infectious, and so like if there's any legacy to leave out from it, I just hope it's just that. It's just like the inspiration to create, just making stuff. It's just that simple. Just make stuff. It's fun. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel what's your, I guess, perception of the band right now?
I mean, I think, kind of playing off of what Brian said is like, again, it's when I show up there, and again, as I said earlier, it's feels like when we make music, almost anything can happen. Sometimes, like I'm even playing bass on a few songs now. You know what I mean? Like, who'd have thought that'd happen?
You played bass when we wrote it, and
yeah. But like again, like just being in a group where that could even happen, though. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like. A lot of bands is like kind of like you show for practice, everyone gets plugged in their rigs, and if you write, like everyone's writing on their instrument. There was like I don't think I've ever been in another situation where it was like, hey, since you wrote this like bass line for the song, you should probably like play bass on it, right? And I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Makes
we're
sense.
also,
You know, like,
we're like our bass player is a very good guitarist. Also,
yeah, exactly.
One
Yeah,
day,
he shreds.
We are extremely blessed,
So good.
blessed with a bass player that's more talented with a guitar player.
probably a better singer than I am. I mean, Brian, you've had Toy Dinosaur. And
Yeah.
we're very lucky to have Brian Young of Toy Dinosaur. playing
Fucking
with
legend.
us right now.
Fucking legend.
But it's a good time.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Hopefully, we got to sync calendars, but about this time next week, maybe we'll try to do what we set out to do last week.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So what's in the future for you guys right now? What do we have to look forward to now? Mind you, it could be 2 weeks before this
Comes out.
Yeah, so let's look down the road and what do we have to look forward to from you guys over the next let's say
I'll
6
send
months?
I'll send you a link. We might be probably playing a show around Halloween in someone's backyard. Pretty humble. And then we have probably a few songs coming out in the very near future. I've recently uploaded, and I'll send you the link, a few songs on a Bandcamp. May or may not be out on Spotify by the time this episode airs, but I'll definitely send you the Bandcamp link that I think are the first ones that maybe capture us as a band as opposed to just me. Or especially at the moment is everyone is actually playing on. Like Sun Also Rises is really Brian and myself like kind of hold up in the studio doing it. But yeah, more music. I'm trying to do an email list, as old school as that sounds. But if anyone wants to join the email list and stay in the loop,
Join the email list.
join the email list, be a part of the Finite email. But I don't know. I'm just like a little tired of the whole social media thing, a little tired of the whole Spotify thing, where I'm just like, I wanna play shows and I wanna have things people can listen to. That's like, and I think that's going to be in the future. And there are things people can listen to on Spotify. There's definitely the newest stuff is definitely on Bandcamp, and yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, let me know what you think. You can.
Well, for anybody wanting to follow you guys, what is your social media handles? Where can we find clips of your music? Where can we purchase your music? Where can we interact with you?
Yeah,
you
so
guys?
we have the Instagram page at the Finites Band on Instagram. My personal one is at Finite Allan, but I guess I try to cross post stuff related to this project on the band page. We have a Bandcamp page called Allan Fine and the Finites. Those are probably the two best ways. If you, on Bandcamp, it will let you download things for free. And if you do that, if you hit $0, it'll probably ask you to put in an email. And then I'm trying to start a mailing list that every few weeks I'll just send something we've been working on. I might even start sending out demos and things. And I hope that it is able to reply to by email. You can email me at finiteallan@gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with me for any reason, like just reach out. I have a website that's littleroomstudio.com. That's probably too many. Hopefully in the show notes. I mean, definitely link like our Bandcamp and our band's Instagram. But feel free to email me if you want to.
Yeah, email Allan.
Email him
They
so
have
many times.
It's at Project Bri, and Brian's gonna be posting some music presumably, and also very good producer
I still
drummer.
need to get all that figured out, but yeah,
And then
Project
I don't-
Bri.
anything you want to plug on the mic?
Email Allan. Email my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, guys, this has been a great interview. I hope everybody out there has enjoyed it as much as I have, and I am pumped about what you guys got coming out after sitting here talking to y'all and kind of finding out the method to the madness. I'm really
More madness than methods. Still.
Yeah, the madness is the method.
I like it. Madness. I'm probably gonna borrow that from you. So just to let you know. But all right, this is Chris Schrum with Two Beers with the Band and the guys from Allan Fine and the Finites signing off.
I'm not ready to go home. I'm not gonna do that just yet. Somewhere out beyond the horizon, I cut up all of my credit card. I gotta find some way to get to the moon before I forget to see the stars. Fly free. My name is Allan. Supertramp. I'm not ready to go home. I'm not gonna do that just yet. I'm not ready to go home.